What is up, guys? In today's video I'm going to be going over several early game tips because with Fortnite Act 3 early game has changed a lot for zero build. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, comment down below what you think of how these changes affect early game and if you kind of like these changes or prefer it the other way. And if you guys would like to use my code in the shop when getting anything, it is EvolveJake, just like my channel name is, and it is underneath the webcam at all times. So one of the most obvious changes to early game with this update is going to be that landing is now completely different. Typically in Fortnite, when you were going to land after you jumped out of the battle bus, once you reached a certain altitude, you would get glider locked and then you could no longer close your glider. But now once you reach glider lock altitude, you can actually enter free fall where you detach from your glider and then just fall straight down. So you're not able to glide as much or maneuver as much in free fall as you would kind of when normally gliding, or prior to getting glider locked, but you can use this to land much faster than you would otherwise. But there is a bit of a risk and reward here because if you don't pull your glider before it's too late, you will splat the ground and be left with 1 HP remaining. And you can use this to land earlier. Like I said, it is pretty simple. You just want to get to where you're trying to go, enter a free fall to lose as much altitude as you can, and then pull your glider again last second, or a bit earlier than you hit the ground. That way you kind of save yourself, or once you reach the threshold to where you can no longer put it away. So very straightforward, very simple. It's just something that you got to kind of play around with and feel what feels right for you, and what distances feel right. And you can detach and pull out your glider again several times. So you could drop, pull out your umbrella, drop, pull out your umbrella, drop, pull out your umbrella. You don't have to drop all the way straight down in one swoop, even though that would be faster. So this is something that you're really going to want to put the time into and get a nice kind of muscle memory for, I guess would be the way to know how to land with this new system. But in simple, get to where you want to go, enter free fall, pull your glider, and then you probably would have landed much faster than you would have otherwise. You can actually drop without taking fall damage if the height you're dropping from isn't that high. So you can use that to somewhat get loot earlier than other players if you and an enemy player are both going for the same piece of loot. Something you can do to get a very fast landing using free fall is free fall onto something that negates fall damage. So the easiest examples of this would be deep water. If you drop into that water, you're going to be fine. But also the large bushes around the map, I think they're decently easy to hit when you're dropping onto them, and they actually will save you from taking any fall damage. So if there's any of these big bushes next to buildings at the POI you're going to, just free falling straight into that bush might be a much faster landing than you would have otherwise got. Something that could be harder to hit but can make a big difference is going to be dumpsters or the umbrellas that are around the map, because both of these will negate fall damage. If you land into a dumpster that you can go into, your character will enter the dumpster instead of taking fall damage. And then same with the umbrellas that bounce you. If you fall onto that, it will bounce you away and negate the fall damage. Some of these smaller objects, obviously there is more risk there because it being smaller and harder to hit means you might miss it and then just splat the ground and be left with 1 HP remaining. But if you get a good feel for this and if you get good at it, you're going to have a much better landing than other players. So learning free fall and learning what feels right to you and learning kind of the timings for all this is going to be very important for getting a good landing in Act 3 and onward. It is somewhat harder now, I think, to know how many players are landing with you. Kind of typically when playing Fortnite, you would get glider locked and all the players around you would get glider locked at the same altitude, and you would hear their gliders and kind of know roughly how many people are going there. You might not know the exact amount, but you might know, okay, there's a lot of people here, or there's barely anybody. With the new free fall system, it can definitely be harder to know how many players are around you at your POI, so you definitely want to try to stay aware and keep your kind of guard up when looting. Normally, I feel like I had a much better understanding of the other players around me. Another change is going to be the starting pistol, and I feel like this change is somewhat misleading. So in zero build, you start off with this gray where we drop in pistol, and I think a lot of people thought this was going to be a good weapon to fight with off spawn and that they were just going to land on enemy players and start fighting right away. And you can do that, but it's unlikely to work out because this pistol is not good at all. I think the starting pistol is slightly better than not having a weapon at all, which is how it should be. I think it's well balanced in that way. But in general, I think it's something that you don't want to pay much attention to or you don't want to think about very much. If you're landing on somebody, maybe you get that kill, but I don't think you should try to force situations where you're using the starting pistol. I think you still want to try to loot up, get other weapons, and actually get fighting loot. The time where I kind of notice this being most helpful is like if I get a pump shotgun off spawn and I haven't had a chance to get another weapon yet, then sure, comboing this pump with the starting pistol is much better than not having anything to combo it with at all. But just the idea of trying to force fights with the starting pistol, I don't think is a good idea at all, because it's pretty weak. The accuracy on it isn't great. You don't have very much ammo, and other players in the area are going to take advantage of the fact that you're doing that. So like, let's say you force a fight with the starting pistol and you get an easy elimination off spawn. Nice. Now you probably have no ammo. You may not have gotten a gun in that time. You probably haven't generated shield in that time, even though you do drop with a mini shield now, but it takes time to use. And the other players around you have probably had more time to get shield, more times to get weapons, and they're going to have a pacing advantage on you in the early game. Early game is pretty much all about timing and like getting as much of a timing advantage as you can on other players. That's why landing early is so important. That's also why landing on loot is so important. And I don't think that has changed at all with the starting pistol. I think if you force fights with this, you're actually putting yourself at a timing disadvantage and setting yourself up to get third party. So use it if you have to, but still try to get other weapons, and don't try to shoot people out of the air with this. I've seen that happen as well, where somebody wastes time trying to shoot me out of the air with the starting pistol, and it kind of just ruins their game. So I don't think very highly of the starting pistol. I feel like you could play just as you would before, and it'll still work out decently fine. You want to get loot as fast as you can. You want to get shield as fast as you can, because doing so gives you an advantage on other players. If you are able to loot faster than those around you, you will have a firepower advantage on them, and typically an HP advantage. And this is why it's also very important to learn the more loot condensed areas of the POI you enjoy landing at. If one house has 4 chests and several floor loot spawns, and one house has 1 chest, you probably want to land at the house with more loot, right? Also, where the natural shield is, if possible. So for me, my favorite area to land is Riptides, and so I typically land on the pizza restaurant, because landing on the pizza makes it so that I can get full shield faster than pretty much anyone else in the area, and still have the best healing item to carry as well. This is going to be true with like POIs that have barrels or slurp trucks as well. Getting those barrels or that truck quickly will often give you an HP advantage on the enemies, especially if there's loot around the truck as well. If it's like a slurp truck that's out in the open and there's nothing near it, probably wouldn't want to land there. But if you can make a loot route that includes getting those barrels and getting that truck, not only are you going to consistently have shield, but you potentially end up getting it much faster than other players. Another kind of change for how early game plays out now is going to be the pocket item. You will actually get this, I believe, a minute after you jump out of the battle bus. It has a 60-second cooldown initially before you've even used it. But this is huge. Your shockwave pocket item can be absolutely game-changing, because one of the most unfortunate things about early game is getting chain third-partied and not having mobility to react to that yet. And if you're able to buy time to earn this pocket item shockwave, going to that in these dire moments can be something that really saves your game. But another time where this can be really impactful is going to be if an enemy gets mobility and you don't. So like, let's say you didn't get any mobility, but you got okay guns, you got okay shields, and then you maybe get timing on somebody and start getting good damage on them, but they glove away, right? Normally, it would just be like, well, that person's gone, I don't have mobility to chase. Keeping in mind that you have this pocket item now might kind of get you a situation where you can actually use that to get the kill and then earn the mobility from that player. So if you ever don't have mobility, the pocket item is going to be very important for solving that problem. And I think a lot of people, myself included, don't think about it as much in the early game because there is that initial timer. But, you know, pay attention to it and just know when it's ready, because it can completely save your life or get you a kill on somebody who would have gotten away otherwise and earn you more mobility. Obviously, at each POI has vending machines and rivalry boards as well, and you're going to want to make use of these. The vending machines are easy ways to get high rarity loot. The rivalry boards not only sell important items, so like the weapon slot often sells the mythic gloves right now, and I prefer not to purchase them because it's pretty expensive, but I will in cases where I looted a POI and got no mobility at all. This is probably the easiest time to ever get mobility in Fortnite, because you can go to the boards and it's pretty much guaranteed to have those mythic gloves. But also the heal slot of the rivalry board has a chance to sell overdrive grenades as well, and that can also be really helpful. The vending machines sometimes will have a weapon you like. The shotgun vending machine can be a bit of a struggle sometimes because we have 4 shotguns in the loot pool. But one nice thing is that the rivalry board will also upgrade your weapon. So I have a lot of times where I purchase a purple pump from the vending machine, and it's like selling gold duels as well that I don't want, but I'm able to take that pump to the rivalry board and easily make it gold. Because it's really cheap to upgrade. So it's with how this season plays out, you probably shouldn't be leaving your POI with low rarity weapons or with no mobility, because the rivalry boards and the vending machines kind of solve both of those problems, and you want to make use of them consistently because other players are going to be. Normally, loot rarity, I feel like, is something that's kind of over exaggerated. But if everybody has gold loot, the fact that you don't is going to be a bit of a problem. And if everybody has mobility, the fact that you don't is going to be a problem. You can also get a rivalry at the rivalry board and maybe mark somebody that's hiding in your POI or nearby, but it doesn't always just go to the nearest person. I feel like it kind of tries to, but it doesn't always go to the nearest person. And then the final thing I'm going to say is just to learn the areas around your POI and kind of where people flow to afterwards, because that's something that can really help out your game as well. Or maybe the supplementary loot spots around your POI as well. So Riptides, for example, I often loot Riptides and then go to that gas station nearby, and this gives me 2 sets of vending machines to check out and 2 rivalry boards to kind of check out and see what they're selling if I am missing anything. And this gas station is also kind of an area, or the lake near it, where other places kind of rotate into as well, so I'm able to get some fights there. And knowing these things will help you in situations where you need to get more loot, but also help you not get caught off guard as much by enemy players, because, you know, if you loot similar areas consistently, you'll kind of have an idea for where the other players are. Also, any sort of kind of permanent rotation on the map is going to be helpful here. There's like rifts all around the map this season. Some POIs or landing spots have hiding spots or like porta potties that will send you kind of where you need to be, and making use of those things will help you get around the map faster and kind of reduce the time where you're maybe just out in the open and exposed to enemies. But that is going to be it for this video. As always, if you guys did find this to be helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more. Comment down below what you think of these changes. I actually like all of them. I was kind of so-so on the starting pistol. I didn't want to just... I thought it would be the gray regular pistol, and I didn't want people just landing with a really good weapon and then just forcing fights right away. But I think the way the starting pistol is, where, like I said, it's kind of slightly better than not having anything at all. I feel like that's pretty balanced and kind of accomplishes what a kind of default starting weapon should. But I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.